Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Magic Weapon.
Wah. It's magic now, I guess, because I made a funny noise. This is a second level spell for like every class under the sun. It gets on, let's see, Paladin, Wizard, Artificer, War Domain, Arcane Domain, Forge Domain, and Oath of Glory, all get magic weapons. So maybe not every class under the sun, but a lot of people get this.
Three primary classes.
Sure, it's a lot. I feel like I see this in every spell list, but it's definitely apparently more niche than that. It takes about a action to cast, which is definitely to its boon. It's an hour-long duration, requires concentration. It's got really simple text. You touch a non-magical weapon. Until the spell ends, the weapon becomes magic with a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls. At higher levels, if you do it at a 4th level or higher, it gets +2. 6th level or higher, it gets +3. That's it.
All right.
That's all it does. Now, Bob.
All right. Yeah.
I have a question. Okay.
All right. Before you start, I want to say I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the spell.
Okay.
That's not where the crux of our disagreement lies.
Okay, great. Let's then for the audience, we'll get it out here. This spell is bad. I don't think people should be casting a magic weapon. I think it is way overcosted for what it does. This is a feature that fundamentally exists to serve one main purpose, and that main purpose is getting over non-magical weapon damage resistances. This is something you would go against a werewolf, and you go, okay, the werewolf's resistance to non-magical damage, the fighter's weapon is now magical to overcome that resistance. Right? That's the point of it existing. So in the niche window where you know you're going against enemies with the thing, and your DM hasn't gifted you a magic weapon yet, you go, okay, fine, wizard, can I have the buff? And they go, yeah, sure, here's the buff. That's one of my second level spell slots I put down the toilet just so you can do damage and get to function and do what your character normally does. With a nice little +1 to hit and damage. What's not to love? Sure, whatever. I don't think it's good. I don't think most characters should be casting this on a regular basis. Unless you've just got like buckets of first level or second level spell slots lying around. Like I could see this being like you're a 7th level or 8th level wizard, and you got a paladin or a fighter that haven't gotten a magic weapon yet. You just go, okay, great. Second level spell slot there, you got an hour for it. At the same time, you're not using your concentration on other better things, so it still seems bad. But okay, sure. That's the window it's at. It's a 2, whatever. The spell is not magic. It's dumb.
What do you mean it's not magic?
Okay. Let's play this hypothetical. We have these things that exist called masterwork weapons. And masterwork weapons are weapons that are so well crafted. They're so pristinely and perfectly made that they do +1 to hit and damage. Now, is that magic?
No.
It's masterwork, right?
Yes.
That's what masterwork looks like, is it is
right.
A slightly better version of an existing tool. Now, this text, the weapon gets a +1 bonus to attack rolls and damage rolls. That looks like masterwork, right? That's just what that looks like. It's a slightly better than normal weapon. Yep. Where's the magic come in?
Sam, it's magic. It's better. It's magic.
It's magic, so it's better isn't a good answer. It doesn't look like magic. It doesn't feel like magic. It's just arbitrarily better. And we say it's good magic. No! It doesn't feel like magic.
I do not. I mean, we've had. When did we have this argument? What were we talking about?
Video. I think it was second level ranger spells.
Ranger spells, yes. Yeah, we said, all right, we're gonna take this outside and do this on a full magic weapon video. And now I have no idea what your problem is with this spell. It doesn't look like it's. I mean, yeah, you got a mundane weapon, you enchant it, now it's better. That's what magic does.
How is it better?
It hits things better. It does more damage.
How?
Maybe it's with like glowing energy. Magic.
It doesn't say it glows with energy. It doesn't produce any light.
Well, use your imagination. This is D&D.
And we have a spell called Flame Arrows. Guess what that does?
It flames your arrows.
It flames, and I can say that it can be done mundanely, but I don't have a stick on my ass because that one is, a magical version. I can say, okay, I can imagine you, kindling the fire with your hands, lighting your arrows on fire. It can be done mundanely, but sure, I can envision a world where this is done magically. Whatever. There's nothing here that tries to even sell you the fantasy. There's nothing here that's even trying to say, this is supposed to look cool and fancy. It's just boring. It's just bland. It's just, oh, we gotta do this because the DM said we have to do. Okay, fine, have the magic weapon. Now you get to play the game with your character that otherwise would be entirely useless in this fight. And it's not. It doesn't look spectacular. It doesn't have a shining bright blue light on it. It isn't crackling with lightning. It isn't doing anything magical. It just is magic, and that's not
It
good enough for
can
me.
be.
That
It can
doesn't
be
feel like magic.
crackling. It can be crackling with lightning if you want it to be.
But if I am playing this rules as written, I cannot do that. I have no cosmetic control over this unless the DM says you can have cosmetic control over this.
Well, the DM can't control my imagination, and
Sure they can.
if I want crackling energy, it's going to be there.
Bob,
Otherwise, like, all right, let me ask you this.
in your imagination, this whole world can be pink and fluffy and in a giant cotton candy machine, and that's your prerogative. But I want the game rules to make everyone have the same imaginative event. I want the game rules to support people coming up with cool ideas, to come up with cool abilities, to tell a fantastic story. And having a jumping off point with flavor text is useful. And this doesn't have anything close to that.
All right, if it had a line of flavor, would you feel better about this?
It would depend on what the line of flavor was, but yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
and when I say feel better about it, I would feel better about calling the +1 magic. Because right now, there's nothing magic about +1. Like I said earlier, that's just masterwork. That just means the weapon is well crafted, not magic.
That's not what this means. I mean, you still have like a rusty old crappy sword, but now it hits better because of magic. Yes.
Okay,
which I am completely fine with.
I am not. That's so dumb. Because magic isn't a good reason to do things in a narrative game that's all about creating imaginative experiences with your friends. That's so stupid looking. It's just like, yes, my rusty sword is able to slay the Gorgon now because I magicked it. What?
All right.
What?
All right, I'm thinking like, all right, I've got a butter knife, but the butter has been in the freezer. Man, I'm having a hard time getting through this butter. I magic it with a little bit of fire. Now it goes through the butter. Same knife, but magic.
No, not magic. Heat. Heat is the discerning difference there, Bob. That wasn't magic. It'd be like you have a brick, and you're like, I can't cut through the brick with this butter knife. But now magic means I can cut through the brick with this butter knife, and nothing else changed. That's the difference we're talking about here.
All right. Well, you know what? How else would you explain that than magic?
It's dumb. It's dumb, and it looks dumb, and I hate it.
All right, let me ask you this. How do you feel about regular magic weapons?
I think regular magic weapons tend to have a look to them. I think +1 weapons are functionally, in my brain, I envision them as just masterwork weapons, right? Now, that's not what they're written as. What they're written as is regular longswords that are magic, and I hate them too. Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
That presentation doesn't work for me.
As long as you're consistently insane.
But like as a DM, I'm on record saying I don't give out a lot of magic items. I also don't run enemies with magic resistance for that reason, because I don't want to have this weird tax where it's, I didn't give you this, so your character gets to arbitrarily be worse, especially with people that aren't like super engaged with the system all the time, without people that aren't going through and being like, do I have to worry about this? Magic weapon doesn't say it's real text, which is you overcome non-magic weapon resistance. That's the real text here, right? It not saying that means if I'm a new player reading this for the first time, I don't know that benefit matters. I don't have any reason to suspect this spell's important for doing that down the road. If I have no reason to suspect that this monster we're going to come against is going to have non-magic weapon resistance, I have no reason to suspect my weapon will be less effective. You would have to dig into the rules to know that. So me as a DM, when I'm DMing for people of varying experience levels, I'm not going to make that tax arbitrarily apply to them. I'm not going to make them suddenly go, I was effective at killing things with flesh, and now my sword is not effective at killing things with flesh, unless, this is a big caveat, I have a little trail of breadcrumbs. We showcase the monster being resistant to damage before the encounter happens. We give them a little bit of dripping, so you have to go find things as part of an adventure to find a weakness to beat this one kind of monster. That's how I tend to like getting over non-magical resistances, which is why I don't use +1 weapons and why I don't use magic weapon.
I was thinking you've got a small but fair fight. You've got a few mundane monsters, but one creature with magic resistance, and they'll have a harder time taking it down. But for future confrontations, they can remember, that creature has magic resistance. I know to take steps toward that now.
So it's hard to identify that, right? We're in a situation where we're into a really big burly bugbear, right? And the big burly bugbear has got like a Gorgon cloak armor or something on, right? Some kind of even like werewolf hide, we'll say. They got a werewolf hide armor on, so they have resistance to non-magic weapon damage, right? It's hard to see as a player, especially if you're not given the information of how much HP this has, how much damage it's taking, which isn't given, right? The DM can have a lot of information personally. They don't have to display hit health points or anything like that. They can let this be done in their head. They can just see that this thing looks chunky. This thing's taking more hits. This thing is, if they can declare like, oh, your weapon slashes seem to be ineffective against it, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's got resistance to non-magic weapons. It might just mean it has resistance to slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning damage from an outside perspective, right? If you aren't inundated with the inner rules and workings of the game. And that's where it can lead to extra confusion. Like, I still don't know if a new player knows to take magic weapon to overcome that resistance, having confronted it before.
I mean, yeah, there's ways around that. You can say, I mean,
you can verbalize, you should
say,
take magic weapon next.
No, you should take, but but this creature has resistance to magical non-magical weapons. If you want, whatever. That's all right. Now,
clunky.
Yeah. So we're at a different part of the argument now.
Yes.
We went from just regular mundane weapons to magical weapons. You don't think there's enough there? I'm totally fine with it. Now we're talking about resistance to non-magical weapon damage, and you don't like that either. Now
I hate that. I hate that a
lot. Now, for the reason you just said, you know, new players, varying degrees of knowledge about the ins and outs of the mechanics of the game. What if you're playing with a bunch of experienced players?
If I'm playing with a bunch of experienced players, I don't want to ask them to have attacks on their character sheet from doing cool things to overcome a specific kind of mundane problem. If I'm playing with experienced players, I'm going to know they're going to seek out weapons that circumnavigate this problem, right?
Okay.
So I'm not going to ask my players that are out of the experience table to say, you need, like, if we're doing Munchkin, like, highest DPR we can per round, we're fighting at, like, Cobalt Fight Club tuned encounters to the highest degree with engaging battle maps, different kinds of spawning in monsters, high complexity environments, high complexity fights. Like, we're taking 3.5-hour combats. If we're doing that, I'm not going to make magic weapon a central focus of that because that's not interesting or engaging, right? There could be circumstances where I would use creatures that have resistance flat out to piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning damage. I would use immunity to creature. I would give creatures immunity to bludgeoning, slashing, piercing damage when the monster's intent is to challenge martial characters in a different way. When the monster's intent is to be, this is something the spellcasters have to deal with, and the fighters and barbarians and paladins have to figure out a ways to manage it without their weapons being affected. That's a unique kind of challenge. But that's not going to be in every fight.
Mundane weapons aren't entirely ineffective, though, I mean, with resistance, right?
Sure, but whenever we're looking at things with like 150 hit points, it's having your turns, and your turns means you feel horrible about the encounter. It means I should be doing anything else in my action that is more effective than this with my weapon, right? I find anything else that doesn't have resistance to the damage, I didn't prioritize that. That becomes the objective, right? And that can be an interesting puzzle element. If this didn't exist and we had non-magic weapon resistance and there wasn't ways, or just, again, weapon resistance, we have ways to make that an interesting puzzle for complex compositions, for parties that have spellcasters and melee characters, martial characters, I mean. Martial characters being ineffective against that source means the spellcasters have to deal with it while the martial characters do something else. That is an interesting puzzle. I don't think magic weapon has a good home in that puzzle. I don't think concentration has a good home in that puzzle. I don't think that is necessarily something that every counter should be including or thought about. I don't think this has much place to exist beyond a surprise, your weapons don't work, take magic weapon next time.
All right, see, I disagree. I think, well, I mean, I feel like my argument is going to be pretty much what you just said, except I'm cool with it. Like, all right, you're going up against a creature with magic, non-magical weapon resistance. Did I say that right? Whatever.
Yes.
You know what we're talking about. All right, your spellcasters are doing their thing. They're fine. Your martial characters. All right, first round. Oh, our weapons are less effective. That sucks. Now we have to figure out, look, we're not just gonna whack this thing with our axe again. We have to figure out other ways to deal with it. Maybe we'll grapple him, try to restrain him, while the other ones, you know, whatever. Or wizard, don't you have a magic weapon spell? Mind giving me one of those? But the wizard says, "Ooh, but I'd really rather use my concentration on something else." There's a balance there. You have to weigh the options.
So I agree that in that exact scenario where you've already prepared magic weapon and you're against this specific kind of enemy, right? That suddenly is a consideration. Here's my issue. My issue is that you have to go into this world, in a world that has plenty of monsters that don't have this resistance, plenty of monsters that entirely ignore this, plenty of situations where you would never want to cast magic weapon anyway, plenty of times where you have other concentration effects up that you're much more interested in, and you have to say, okay, for the subset of encounters that will exist that I will be more effective than my fighter, I would rather use my turn or my bonus action and my spell for turn, giving them the ability to hit it, than casting a spell to kill the thing faster, than doing other things that are effective against the creature with the non-magic weapon resistance. Right? Those are the trade-offs. On Artificer, fine. I can kind of get it because they're a melee character anyway, that they don't have a robust toolkit. They're supposed to be enchanters. They're supposed to empower people's ability to do things. On a support class that has extra attack, fine. I don't mind it that much. On wizards, no. On paladins, absolutely not. You have divine smite. You have way better things to be doing with your own action than this. Most of the time. Paladins sometimes will have the situation where you'll go, okay, this thing's weapon resistance. It's supposed to challenge me. It doesn't challenge me. Magic weapon, smash, smash. And that's also, defeats the point of it existing to some degree. It's this. I don't like odd binaries like this that you have to prepare for the eventuality of sometime it might happen in an encounter, and I'm glad I prepared.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't bother me. And what you were saying before about your turns being halved, that doesn't bother me either. I don't find that makes me miserable or bored. That's like I get to stab it more now. More fun.
Yeah, I'm just envisioning like you just absolutely going to town with a robe, just like stab, 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 stab. And it's just like flaking off the side of this giant behemoth and is completely ignoring you because you're doing ineffective amounts of damage. And it's just like walking over to spellcasters, like big epic battle, then firing firebolts, dashing back and forth. You're like, just playing your own little world back there, not caring that you're doing wasted actions.
That's generally how I play. Yeah.
Oh, great. I don't think this spell's uncastable. I don't like the mechanics of it. I don't think that it needs to exist in its current state. And I think that they should look to revise this system.
Yeah, maybe. Even if that's just adding a line of flavor text.
God, that would go a really long way for me not hating the spell as much as I would do.
That's so weird.
It's just magic. You can't just say it's magic. You have to tell me how it's magical.
I don't know. I'm okay with the burden of coming up with that myself. Like
what ends up happening so often is just people don't. What ends up happening so much is I magic weapon it, and then there's no fantasy there. Your sword just works.
I mean, for me, the martial character that the spellcaster is casting magic weapon on my weapon. I don't know how magic works anyway. I'm fine with that. What's that spell? I think it's a cantrip. Is it firebolt where you have to like make a V with your fingers or something and or touch your thumbs together? I don't know what it is.
Burning hands.
It's burning hands. Like, all right, they give you that. I don't like that.
Oh, I love that.
If I want to do burning hands, I just I want to do my own motion.
I think as long as you're doing a motion, that works. I think you're allowed to overwrite it as long as the mechanics are still in play, but having a place for a player to start and go, that's what magic looks like? Cool. I have to do little hand motions. I have to do little things with my character. I have to care about material components. I have to care about the little odds and ends and the little tricky things with magic. I think that makes the game system a lot more engaging whenever you give you opportunities to engage with the thing, with the fantasy. Magic weapon doesn't give you an opportunity to engage with the fantasy. It just says, here you go, you can deal with weapon resistance now.
I'm totally cool with that.
I think it's dumb.
Yeah. All right. We've got this off our chest. I feel closer to you now, Sam.
We've bonded. We've had this large disagreement over this spell we both generally agree isn't that great.
This has been a wall between us. And,
ever since the second level ranger spell video, things have been different, but now we're back and mended our wounds.
All right, now that we have though, I do like that. I never want something to be using my concentration, but I do like that I can cast it on somebody else's weapon and then hang back and not have to worry as much about my concentration being broken. So that's something in its favor. Like you said, bonus action, also nice. Level 2 doesn't seem. I would like this more at level 1, but yeah.
I think if you ever get this as a bonus spell on your list, it's probably where it belongs. Just because I don't want to ever have to prepare it. But if I already have it and I'm thrown into an encounter where it matters, you're glad you have it on specifically the artificers and paladins.
Yeah. Then see, my thinking is by the time you get into upper levels, like if you're playing under anyone but Sam, you're probably going to have some magic weapons at that point.
Yeah, and then
It
this
just
doesn't matter
becomes
anymore.
unnecessary.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I think honestly, a lot of characters after their first adventure get a +1 magic sword. I'll get a +1 bow, and this spell never has meaningful text.
Yeah. Then I don't hate it. But yeah, it's not something I'm super excited about either. And I genuinely like creatures having resistance to non-magical weapon damage.
I would like it to end on, think about how much of a moot point the mechanic is whenever it is expected that players overcome it before they are introduced to the game. Before the majority of monsters with the resistance are introduced, most groups, I would hazard a guess, most groups would already overcome that barrier.
Yeah.
How good can that system be if it's not even in play functionally?
I don't know.
Commenters, let me know what your thoughts are.
I'm
very clearly passionate about this. I know that my opinion may not be popular as well.
All right, that was fun. Yes, but it is very welcoming of comments. We've presented arguments here. So yeah, let us know which side you fall on, somewhere in the middle, whatever. We appreciate your thoughts. Leave them down.
I give it a 2 out the gate.
Comments.
Wait. What'd you give it? I gave it a 2.
Oh, sorry. Well, just to spite you, I'll give it a 3.
Okay. Good reason.
I have to give it higher than you, or else this whole argument was meaningless. I'd probably give it I might give it a 2, but like without that, but I'm giving it a 3. That's official. There you go. All right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. That was Magic Weapon. All right. Like, subscribe, and all that, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.